I got my Australian visa within 24 hours, and here is what I did. Hey people, in this video I'll walk you through the step-by-step process of applying for an Australian visitor visa. Whether you're planning a vacation or visiting friends and family, this guide will help you to navigate the application smoothly. I'll also provide some helpful tips at the end of the video from my own personal experience. The first time I applied for an Australian visitor visa, I was still a student. I didn't have anyone in Australia. Applying for Australia visitor visa is quite simple, as the process is pretty straightforward to follow. Before you start your application, check if you are eligible for an Australian visitor visa. Visit the official Australian government website to review the requirements. I'll put the link in the description box. So there you will find out if you need to complete health examination. For example, if you reside in a country that is on the Australian list of yellow fever risk countries, or you have stayed overnight or longer in that country within the 6 days before arriving into Australia, and you are 1 year or older, you'll be asked for a yellow fever card as part of your supporting document. So this is something you have to know. That's why it's good to check the website and know the documents that you will need to submit, because this would vary depending on your situation. Next, gather the necessary documents, your necessary supporting documents for your application. This sounds like cliche, I've heard it before, but it is very necessary to attach everything that you need to support your application. This typically includes your passport, the visa application form, obviously, recent passport size photograph, travel itinerary, and some financial evidence. I'm just going to talk about the documents before, going to the process, but this is the standard procedures. You need to show proof that you have enough money for your stay. So you need to show your personal bank. This proof can be your personal bank statements for a 3-month period, pay slips, tax records, fixed term deposit if you have any, credit card statements if you have credit cards, audited accounts. So anything that's going to support your documents. If you are going to be sponsored by someone, then they will need to support the document by providing evidence of sponsorship. You also have to prove that you have reasons to return to your home country. This is very, very important, and is usually termed socioeconomic ties. So things like employment letter, a letter stating that you plan to return to your job. For instance, a leave letter. Leave letter will have the period of your leave and that you're going to come back to your job. If you don't have that leave letter, you can have a leave approval letter. So something that shows that you will return to your job, because it's not enough that you have an employment. You have to also show that after your holiday, you're going to go back to that job. You can also include proof that you own a house or other major assets in your home country. If you are studying, show that you study at a certain college or university in your home country. Or for instance, if you are studying in a different country, like I was studying in New Zealand, I had to show proof that I am studying in New Zealand. So things like my admission letter, transcript, if you can get your transcript. For me, I got an official letter from my PhD supervisor in addition to my admission letter and my transcript. Another way to prove socioeconomic ties is to show evidence that you have immediate family members in your home country. It doesn't have to actually be the country you're staying in, but you have immediate family members in your home country. For instance, maybe you are studying in New Zealand, but you have family in Nigeria. You can also include that. It shows that you are going to leave Australia, and if at all it's not New Zealand, it's going to be your home country, Nigeria. If you have a relative or friend in Australia that is inviting you to visit, then you should attach a letter from that your relative or friend in Australia. This letter would state their relationship to you, the purpose of your visit and length of your stay, if you'll be staying with them. If this person will be paying for your stay, they have to provide proof of their funds, that they can pay for your stay in Australia. Now, not everyone travels to visit family and friends. For instance, when I went to Australia for the first time, I didn't know anybody. I just went to explore Australia with my friend from New Zealand. Both of us didn't have family in Australia. So sometimes you travel to explore that country. In that case, you will need to attach your plans while you're in Australia. So that's called travel itinerary. But I'll say whether you are traveling as a tourist or you are going to visit friends and family, attach a travel itinerary. This travel itinerary can be at a high level or it could be a detailed breakdown of your day-to-day activity. If you need translation for your document, then get it. Before, it used to be that your passport should be valid for 6 months after your travel. This condition has now been removed. They just need your passport to be valid for the period that you're going to be in Australia. So the time you'll be traveling in and out of your Australia, your passport should be valid. Now we go on to the third step, which is the online application. The fastest and easiest and preferred way to apply for Australian visitor visa or visas in general is online through what is called an EMI account. Head to the official Australian government website and create your own online account. That's the EMI account to start an online application. If you already have an EMI account, then you just simply log in. EMI account lets you create and manage your online visa application in one place. You can use your EMI account to lodge and pay for your application, your visa application, continue a saved application. You can use it to attach documents if required and check the progress of your visa application. Once logged in, select the type of visa you want to apply. For this case, it's the visitor visa subclass 600. So once you select that, it will open the application form. Fill the form carefully, providing accurate and up-to-date information, and follow along by simply clicking next after filling each section. So make sure you fill each section accurately. If applying from within New Zealand, note that paper applications are no longer accepted. So you have to fill online application. Once you are done, attach all supporting documents. Double check all the information that you've provided in your application and submit it online through the EMI account. Then the next step is to pay the visa fee. The application fee costs 190 Australian dollars. And once that is done, you've paid your fees, you'll get a confirmation email. And after a while, which is usually under 10 minutes, if not immediately after, you will get another email requesting for your biometrics. After you receive that email, you have to book an appointment to submit your biometrics. Your biometrics simply means your fingerprints, and to take a photograph of you. It's usually done by VFS Global. And you need to go with your biometric submission request letter, your passport, and your payment card for paying the service fee. The biometric collection itself is free, but the visa application center has a service charge, so you have to pay for that. In Auckland, VFS charges $65.35 for the biometric collection, but for the rest of New Zealand, that is Wellington, Christchurch, Dunedin, Queenstown, it's $132.76. Ridiculous. Oh my god, I couldn't believe it. I did the last biometric submission in Wellington, and when I checked my charge, I'm like, 132. Why are they charging me this much? But I just thought it was, COVID, because COVID has changed a lot of things. It wasn't until when I was in the research for visitor visa application that I found out that this only applies to, the cheap price applies to Auckland. The rest of New Zealand, where you can submit your biometric, pays $132. That's almost double the price. Now wow. Anyway, that on the side, you have to submit biometric for your Australian visa application. Something to note is that you have to submit your biometric every time you apply for an Australia visitor visa, at least. And this is not included in the visa fee. So you pay the visa fee separately and you pay for the service charge separately. So in total, everything is going to be 190 Australian dollars plus 65 if you're applying in Auckland, or 132 New Zealand dollars if you're applying in anywhere outside Auckland. That's just the simple steps involved in Australian visitor visa. Once again, the steps are: 1, determine your eligibility. So you find out if you are qualified to apply for Australian visitor visa. You may not need a visitor visa, you may, if you are from a visa waiver country. 2 is to gather the required documents. So gather all your documents so that once you start your application, you can complete it in one sitting. But if you don't complete it in one sitting, you can save it and return to it later. That's why you need to create an email account. With that, you save and come back to read later. It will tell you the time you can keep that application before deleting. I don't even think it deletes. Yeah, I don't think it deletes. So save and return to read as many times till you are ready to submit. The next step would be, once you are ready to submit your application, you've attached all your documents, you are happy with what you have attached, you submit the application. Because if you don't submit the application, how would they get it to know if to approve it or not? Once you submit the application, you pay the visa fee and get ready to submit your biometric. Once your biometric is submitted, then you can get your visa. They start work on your visa. I'm sure you're wondering, so how did you get your visa approved in 48 days? So this is what happened. I lodged my application online and paid the fees and then booked for biometric, but that took 2 weeks to get. And when I got the space on the day, I went and gave my fingerprint and took a photo. The next day, my visa was approved. Just like that. And I think what happened is the travel history that I've had to Australia, because I've been to Australia 2 or 3 times before that time. So I had to get a new visa, and that actually helped. And not just that, I put all my documents, everything, both the ones they asked to and the ones they did not ask, to support my application. Based on my experience, these are my helpful tips to you. The first is to apply early. Start the application process well in advance of your travel dates to avoid any last minute complication, because when you are rushing, you tend to miss things. 2, be honest. Provide accurate and truthful information in your application to prevent delays or potential visa refusal. For instance, if you have been denied visa before, be honest about the denial. Explain why you were denied, and if you did a second application and it was approved, talk about it. But if you haven't done a second application, make sure that the reason that you were denied in that other visa, even if it was for a different country, that you have addressed that reason in this your current visa application. So let's say you applied to Netherlands and you were rejected because you did not show enough socioeconomic ties. When you're applying for this Australian visitor visa, make sure that you show enough socioeconomic ties, which I have listed the different documents that you can attach to show socioeconomic ties. But this way, these socioeconomic ties can either be work, family, or study, or investment, or both, or all. If you have all of them, put all of them. Next thing is to ensure that your documentation is complete. So have all your necessary documents in the required format to support your application. The application itself is easy, but getting the visa approved largely depends on the documents you submit. The visa officer also has a say, but it's the document that you submit that largely determines the success. Another tip is travel history. A solid travel history can strengthen your application, showing that you abide by visa conditions in the past. But if you don't have a travel history, never been anywhere, this is where you have to show strong socioeconomic ties. The first time I traveled abroad, I went to the UK. I have never been out of Africa before, and I applied for this visa by myself. What really gave me that edge was socioeconomic ties. I had strong socioeconomic ties. So if you've never traveled out before, don't be afraid. Just make sure that you have strong socioeconomic ties, and you should have enough money to take care of yourself while you're in Australia, because they don't want you coming there to be a liability, and you don't want them thinking that you're going to run away. So that's what you're going to do if you don't have travel history. Then keep an eye out on the official website for any changes or updates in the visa application process. Once you get your visa approved and you're ready, they usually advise people to consider getting health insurance to cover your stay in Australia, because anything can happen and you're a visitor, so you will not be covered, and it's going to be very expensive if you now have to use your health care as a visitor. So it's usually advised to get health insurance. It's not mandatory. You don't have to prove it in your visa application. So the fact that I'm mentioning it does not mean that you have to include. You don't have to prove that you have health insurance in your visa application because it's not mandatory. But people advise that when you're traveling abroad that you should have a health insurance because it's just a helpful precaution. So in case something emergency happens, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars. Your health insurance will cover it. But remember, it's not mandatory to include health insurance in your visa application. It's just a tip I'm giving you when you travel. So applying for an Australian visa, visitor visa, can be a straightforward process if you follow these steps and tips. Remember, preparation is key. So take your time and submit a well-organized application. Safe travels and enjoy your beautiful time in Australia.